check.
What's up everybody, my name is AAA and I am so sick right now, it is ridiculous, but that is not going to get in the way of me making quality content because the only thing that gets in the way of me making quality content is the fact that I have no clue how to make quality content. Anyways, it's time for something a little bit different today. It's time for some advice, specifically regarding the best games out on the market for the PS4, regardless of price, age, any of that stuff. Just straight up the most quality you can get with your money. If you're an Xbox fan, don't worry, I'm making a separate video on that, and if you're looking for cheap games to buy, that is also going to be outlined in a future video, but for now let's get into this list. And before we start, I want to mention that remasters and re-ups will not be mentioned, so while you should definitely go out and get games like The Last of Us Remastered, the Uncharted Collection, the Insane Trilogy, GTA 5, Tomb Raider, Skyrim, etc., those games will not be listed here, but if it's a complete remake like Ratchet & Clank, then it's totally eligible. Starting off, we have 5 quick honorable mentions because I thought these are way too good to not mention. First of all, we have the aforementioned Ratchet & Clank game. This thing looks and plays beautifully. It's got humor, it's got charm, it's got wacky weapons and inventions, and for fans of the series, this is an amazing entry. And for people that have never played Ratchet & Clank games before, this is a great gateway into an awesome franchise. Next up, we have Dishonored 2, the follow-up to last generation's Dishonored, which was long awaited and it did not disappoint. It was a blast to play, the powers were great, there were some choices here and there, and some much less black and white decision making that could shift the game one way or another. The level design here is amazing, plus visually it's great to look at. Next is a game by the same developers as Dishonored in Prey, which was kind of stuck in development and changed around from a sequel to a remake, but it still delivered an awesome shooter experience with a cool story and extremely interesting enemies called Mimics, which are probably the biggest strong suit of the game. Arkham Knight is up next, and while some people were let down by this, it ended up being my favorite one in the series. It was a little less innovative, but it perfected so much of what was already close to perfection in the previous games. And besides the way too often reoccurring tank battles, I couldn't get enough of this game personally. It was the first game I ever platinumed. Finally, rounding off this list, we have Titanfall 2, and while financially this game made a bit of a misstep releasing so close to both the new Call of Duty game and the new Battlefield game, this might have surpassed both those games in terms of quality nonetheless. The campaign isn't incredibly long, but it's memorable, especially for a first-person shooter, and has some cool mechanics as well as, of course, a very stellar multiplayer experience. All around, it's arguably the best console multiplayer shooter of this generation. All those out of the way, let's get into the official list. At number 10, we have 2017's Nier Automata. This is an action RPG from the minds of the people over there at Platinum Games, who are known for their excellent combat mechanics, such as in Bayonetta 2, and you can definitely see that in this game. Nier Automata is the sequel of 2010's Nier, but the story is pretty self-contained, so don't worry too much about missing out on that overall story. Speaking of the story though, while it's not the single most encapsulating thing in the entire world, it's pretty damn good and it gives a lot of big budget games a run for their money. It's no slouch here. But the real appeal of this game is the gameplay itself, and whether it's aerial combat, 2D sections with little changes in the gameplay mechanics, or straight up 3D action, this game has an awesome fluidity and a fun factor to it. It's challenging, but such a blast to play, and Platinum Games' signature gameplay is here with both the hack and slash and long range combat. While not a huge name in the gaming industry, Nier Automata came out and pleasantly surprised everyone, and is definitely worthy of your time. Moving on to number 9, we have Overwatch. Blizzard has turned out yet another addictively fun gameplay experience with their hero shooter sensation that is Overwatch. This game is multiplayer only with some fun little story-like cutscenes scattered here and there, and while I really would have liked to see a single player mode, the game has taken the world by storm with its incredibly addictive gameplay, interesting characters, and what seems to be the perfection of the hero shooter genre. Every character is distinct and fun to play as, and they accommodate for all types of different playstyles. It differs itself from other shooters like Call of Duty or Battlefield with a more colorful and cartoonish look, crazy characters, and more strategy-based gameplay, so you're not just running around shooting things like a chicken with its head cut off. If you're a shooter fan, this is a must-have, and if you're not a shooter fan, give this one a shot, it might surprise you. Number 8 on our list is Fallout 4, and while the game definitely could have looked better and the AI needs some work, overall there's just so much to do and so much fun to be had that these kinks are forgiven. The shooting is much improved from the previous iterations and it's really fun. Plus, the ability to turn on VATS and aim for specific enemy body parts is a staple for the games that can lead to really satisfying results. You're also given the settlement mode where you're able to build civilizations and construct housing for your residents. Plus, it seems like everything you run across is somehow usable. It's classic Bethesda gameplay and it works great. The sense of freedom is awesome and this whole thing is just an absolute blast to play. At number 7 we have Rise of the Tomb Raider, and while this game came out a long time ago on Xbox, it only came out on PlayStation a little more than half a year ago, and believe me, I was going crazy for that 1 year between its original and PS4 release, just waiting to get my hands on this game. The first remake by Crystal Dynamics was amazing and even gave Uncharted a bit of a run for its money, and this new entry dialed that all up to 11. Combat is amazing and diverse, and honestly seems like it's as if somebody paired up the Uncharted and Last of Us gameplay and threw it in one game. The action set pieces are also really cool. The story is also much improved from the original, and the overall thing is just a really great package. It has pretty much every element you would want in an action-adventure game, and it delivers on all that so well. Number 6 is up, and people might wonder why this is so high on my list, but I truly think it deserves it, and is in my opinion the most fun shooter out there right now, and that is Doom. Bethesda hit the refresh button on their classic Doom franchise as the later entries started to be received a little bit more poorly, and in doing so they created a fast, fun, electrifying, and gory masterpiece that is Doom. This is such a blast to play. It's in constant sprint mode, you're blowing up demons left, right, and center, and the story, while present, is here just to move things along more so than anything else, and it doesn't get in the way of the meat of the game, which is greatly appreciated. The game looks awesome and has a killer soundtrack that just gets you hype as hell, pun intended, and the more platforming sections are pretty awesome as well, as is the light exploration. Overall, it's a high energy shooter done right, and it even has some slower parts that help with pacing, and it's the first game that has made me truly contemplate buying a VR headset. Now down to our top 5, and our 5th spot is the 5th game of the Metal Gear Solid franchise. This thing may have stirred up controversy regarding Konami and how they were treating Hideo Kojima, and the fact that some small parts of the game were slightly incomplete, but that's not all too noticeable in the final product, and the game is a wonderful experience. The story is well made, and while fans may claim that it's not as good as previous entries, there's no denying that the gameplay here is better than ever. Everything from the gunplay, the small goofy distractions, the ability to tackle situations however you want, the dynamic weather, the ability to collect tons of things and bring them to your base, this thing straddles the line between serious and absolutely goofy, and the gameplay is pretty much unrivaled amongst its gaming brethren. For any open world fan, this is an absolute must-have to add to your gaming collection. Clocking in at number 4, we have Horizon Zero Dawn. After years of making the Killzone games, which were all pretty good, if maybe stuck in an oversaturated genre, their turn to a new IP was surprising and ultimately really rewarding. Nothing about this game would indicate that these people have made a barrage of first-person shooters. You'd think they spent decades mastering the third-person action game genre. Gameplay is smooth and fun, the setting is unique and beautiful, the enemies are one of the most unique things I've ever seen in a video game, post-apocalyptic robot dinosaurs, and it's all woven together with such a great story and with an awesome lead in Aloy, who has started to make her move as the face of PlayStation now that Uncharted's lovable Nathan Drake has hung up his jersey. They're also releasing a new DLC soon, which will expand the story and give us more content we can sink our teeth into. Rounding out the bottom of the podium is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. This is a fantastical open world title with so much detail, depth, and raw content. Even its expansions could be considered complete standalone massive titles. Geralt's sword is so fun to use and the gameplay is incredibly tight. The magic and range combat is also really well balanced, and everything about this game makes you feel like a certified badass. The world is gorgeous and freaking huge, even bigger than the one found in Zelda, and the side missions found here are genuinely entertaining. Also, the choices you can make, even down to who you want to romance within the game, are expansive and make the game feel like your story. If you were a sexy buff witcher with crazy sword fighting skills and magical abilities, and not some bum sitting on your couch drinking Dr. Pepper. Still, any game that can make that person feel like a badass deserves serious props. Our silver medal goes to a PS4 exclusive, and one of the first ones at that, with crazy weapons and the ability to make any serious gamer want to throw his controller out the window. I am talking, of course, about Bloodborne. From Software created a game for the PS4 that is reminiscent of its Dark Souls franchise, but with a faster pace and some tweaks here and there to make it its own experience, and arguably a better one than can be found in any Souls game to date. The combat is fun but very hard to master, and anyone familiar with From Software can tell you that it's very punishing, and the bosses will be grueling tasks that can take hours upon days to beat. The game has an intricate dance, and if you're offbeat by a second, everything comes tumbling down. But the sense of accomplishment felt anytime you overcome what seems to be an insurmountable obstacle is unparalleled, and pushes you to the next segment where you're bound to once again fail 100 times, but enjoy yourself while that happens. And now for our number one spot, what I believe is the single best game you can go out and buy right now for your PS4, and that is Uncharted 4. This is my personal favorite game of the iconic series, and I really cannot find any serious flaws with it. The story is the best yet and has an even greater weight to it. Beloved characters return and are brought to life better than ever, and the new additions are entirely worth it, especially the two antagonists. It's classic Uncharted, but it takes some cues from The Last of Us in the story department, showing us Drake's flaws rather than portraying him as nearly perfect. The gameplay is solid and the new grapple is awesome, climbing and shooting dudes is as fun as ever, and the game just looks straight up beautiful. It looks more real than real life. Pair that with the gorgeous settings and you get hands down the best looking game on PlayStation. Oh, and the set pieces are back and as strong as ever. They're crazy exhilarating and visually stunning. Everything about this game is a great example of just how much quality can be put into 12-ish hours. And actually also has a great multiplayer mode that may not be entirely groundbreaking, but is still really fun and brings a distinct Uncharted flavor. And let's not forget to mention how its DLC grew into a standalone expansion that looks to be really awesome in Uncharted The Lost Legacy. This is honestly everything I want in a video game, and that's why it lands in my top spot for the best game on the PS4. Again, aside from any games that are remastered or touched up from previous generations. So what about you? Do you guys have the same list, or do you think I got absolutely everything wrong? Let me know in the comment section below and watch out for new content coming soon, and until next time, this has been AAA, signing off.